Welcome to Resolutions, a podcast about dispute resolution and prevention. This podcast is a project for the ABA section of dispute resolution to increase the avenues where we can connect. This week, I'm sitting with attorney Dani Schwartz to discuss arbitrating cryptocurrency disputes. Some of the topics we'll touch on include: what is cryptocurrency? What are some of the disputes related to cryptocurrency that end up in arbitration? How are cryptocurrency disputes different from other types of financial disputes? Is cryptocurrency a true currency or a speculative investment vehicle? What happened at FTX? Do other cryptocurrency exchanges face similar risks? Will more traditional financial services corporations enter the cryptocurrency exchange marketplace? And for neutrals who are interested in learning more about cryptocurrency and how it works, what resources are available to them? Dani Schwartz is a partner at Wachtel Missry in Manhattan. He is a commercial litigator and arbitrator whose practice focuses on real estate, business, cyber, blockchain, and crypto disputes. He is a member of the American Arbitration Association's panel of commercial arbitrators, the FINRA panel of arbitrators, and has been appointed as an arbitrator in more than 50 cases, including many involving crypto matters. Dani served 3 consecutive years as co-chair of the Domestic Arbitration Committee of the New York State Bar Association, and as a member of the executive. He has been selected as a New York Super Lawyer or Super Lawyers Rising Star every year from 2013 to the present, and was elected as a lifetime fellow of the New York Bar Foundation. He has written a number of articles on novel issues in the law that have been published in the New York Law Journal and elsewhere. He is a frequent speaker and lecturer on topics in real estate, arbitration, cyber, blockchain, and cryptocurrency matters. Dani most recently spoke on blockchain and cryptocurrency disputes at the New York State Bar Association's annual meeting. So I just wanted to say, before we get started, just a quick disclaimer that we are not giving any legal advice or financial advice on this podcast session, nor accusing FTX of any wrongdoing. Any mention of FTX is from previously reported news services.
Next Level Mediation Software is a mediator's best tool for advancing their online dispute resolution practice. It takes into account the psychological attitudes of the disputing parties and helps mediators find the key priorities to negotiate. Based on decision science and an easy-to-use interface, the Next Level Mediation platform can handle the most complex disputes. Register today at nextlevelmediation.com for your complimentary 30-day trial of the subscription service and enter the code ABA discount 20 for a 20% discount.
So welcome, Dani.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Very pleased to be here and appreciate the opportunity to discuss the issues that you mentioned, which are obviously more and more in the news, becoming more prevalent in our society and in our marketplaces. Very
good. All right, so I know we're making this maybe super basic for certain folks that aren't super familiar with cryptocurrency, and if you are a cryptocurrency expert listening to this podcast, it might sound a little bit remedial, but let's just start with the very, very basics. What is cryptocurrency?
Sure. Generally speaking, cryptocurrency, which people refer to as with the shorthand crypto, is a digital currency in which transactions are verified and records are maintained permanently by a decentralized computer network system that uses cryptography rather than by a centralized authority like a government or a bank. So instead of carrying cash, which we recognize as physical printed paper currency on your person, cryptocurrency is generally not tangible. So you can store it in accounts on crypto exchanges, in things called virtual wallets and the like, and you'll have a digital record of your holdings, similar in concept to an online bank account. And just as with traditional, what's called fiat currency, paper dollar bills and so forth that we all recognize, you can buy and sell goods and services with cryptocurrency, provided, of course, that the counterparty in any transaction will accept it.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and it's important to mention that it's not it's not fiat currency backed by a central government authority, and that seems to be, one of the big issues when it comes to some of the issues going on with some of the crypto wallets, as far as these accounts are not FDIC insured in any way. So essentially, if the organization that provides your wallet goes under, you might be out of options as far as recovering your crypto or the cash value for it. What are some of the disputes related to cryptocurrency that end up in arbitration?
Well, we've seen and are seeing a variety of disputes, including unauthorized theft or conversion of cryptocurrency from an exchange or a wallet. That can be done by hacking, by various sophisticated forms of phone porting. We're seeing efforts to impose liability on the exchange provider and the internet services provider, essentially in that case, the phone company, claiming, hey, my phone was hacked. I had cryptocurrency holdings that were accessible through my phone, through an app or what have you. I didn't do anything to compromise the security of my phone, but it was compromised, and now a lot of cryptocurrency I was holding that has a lot of value in dollars is gone. It's disappeared. I don't know how to get it back. Somebody's got to pay for this to make me whole, and I'm looking at you, phone company or exchange provider. Your security was deficient. Your fraud prevention and loss mitigation policies were inadequate, and you're responsible. That's a type of case that is coming up more and more frequently. And because it can be so difficult to track missing or disappeared or stolen cryptocurrency and retrieve it, or even just to freeze it, owners who have experienced hacks that resulted in the disappearance of their crypto, they need to find someone that has funds and can be connected to the losses through a viable legal theory. So plaintiffs' lawyers or claimants' lawyers in arbitration parlance are asserting legal theories that are based on telecommunications laws, securities regulations, privacy laws, and of course, contract law and common law. So there's a lot of room for creative lawyering because the legal landscape in cryptocurrency quite obviously is not as well settled and aged as, say, more traditional forms of financial disputes. Although, of course, the legal landscape in traditional finance disputes is evolving all the time as well. And then the final case or type of case that I just wanted to note was there was a dispute in which the respondents or the defendants allegedly temporarily displaced the authentic blockchain, which is akin to the master financial ledger of all transactions, holdings, and accounts. So they displaced that authentic ledger or blockchain with a sham or an inauthentic blockchain, a sham ledger that they controlled and that they determined the inputs and what it said on that ledger. So the allegations were that they created fake forms of cryptocurrency, deposited them into an exchange, used the sham blockchain implant, their sham ledger implant, as the proof or the backup, or as my daughter would say, the receipts, to demonstrate the validity of their tokens or currency. And then they traded or exchanged their seemingly authentic currency with users who traded authentic cryptocurrency for them. So it's I hope that made sense. It's very impressive, frankly. The allegations amount to, one of the most sophisticated frauds that I've ever encountered. It's fascinating, at least to me. And so one of the overarching legal questions for cases like that one is, are these claims just garden variety fraud with an ultra-modern face? Or do we need to consider new legal paradigms and frameworks here? So again, I think there are some really fascinating disputes in this area.
Yeah, you said a couple of things that I just wanted to touch on that really do make crypto disputes unique. So I think the assumption that a lot of folks have is if I have an issue with crypto and I need to file an arbitration against somebody, I'm going to go after one of the exchanges or I'm going to go after one of the wallets. But you mentioned, for example, the security issues with your ISP, right? And maybe it's not necessarily the wallet or the exchange's fault, the particular situation, but you're right. There was a security issue with the ISP, and then the ISP would be the respondent. I think that's unique. And then the other different types of respondents that might not be directly involved in crypto as well. I think it's interesting. I was noting in your background that you're also an arbitrator on the FINRA panel, which I guess leads into my next question. How are cryptocurrency disputes different from other types of financial disputes?
Sure.
And actually, not to cut you off, but before we go into that, maybe do a quick definition of who FINRA is and kind of what they do for folks that might not be familiar with FINRA.
Sure. FINRA is a regulatory authority of essentially the stock market. So it regulates brokers, broker-dealers is the technical term, but in layman's parlance, essentially people who believe they have been aggrieved or who have disputes relating to investment advisors, brokers, investments that have been made, and also even inter-broker disputes like employment disputes where a broker claims that his or her employer deprived them of commissions or something of that nature. So that is the regulatory body that determines those kinds of disputes through arbitration.
And I guess it should be mentioned that most of the wallets and the crypto exchanges are not like traditional brokerages, which are FINRA members. Most of them are outside of FINRA and FINRA's purview. So just wanted to speak to that for a minute.
That's right. And I know we're going to get to FTX in a little bit, but that's one of the controversies that has arisen is the status of regulation of cryptocurrency and crypto exchanges. As compared to long settled and still evolving, but firmly entrenched regulations for traditional financial markets.
Right. So, a typical FINRA dispute, for example, might be my money manager, stockbroker, whatever you want to call them, financial advisor, took my money and invested it in various risky securities or whatnot that weren't appropriate for my age or my investment goals and whatnot, and lost all my money. And now I'm going to file an arbitration against them. And it'll go through the FINRA process, and just see what's recovered on the other end, or possibly they'll lose out on their claim, and the financial representative will be cleared. So in crypto, how does it differ, I guess, from other financial disputes in that sense?
Well, I think first the universe of people who have even a rudimentary understanding of cryptocurrency is much smaller than the universe of people who have, say, a rudimentary understanding of traditional financial service disputes. So I would start there. And then as a subset of that, the universe of lawyers who understand the subject matter and can make sophisticated arguments about these disputes is obviously still smaller. So that's a personnel difference, but I think it's a difference that matters. And in fact, I've had cases, not crypto cases, other kinds of cases with some of the smartest lawyers that I've ever come across. Really, truly people whose brain power is very impressive. And, they hear the word, if I bring it up, they hear the words cryptocurrency or anything, blockchain, anything related to that. And they just kind of say, I don't understand. I guess I'm not smart enough. I don't understand it. So the universe of people who get it is today much smaller than the universe of people in traditional financial service disputes. Then you have a relative dearth of legal precedent in crypto as compared to traditional financial legal disputes, which I mentioned, because that body of law in banking law and equity markets and things like that has evolved over decades and frankly centuries. And the law is generally a tortoise, not a hare. So it's always chasing the latest developments. But in crypto, it seems like it got a late start, and that doesn't help when it's slow to begin with. Not necessarily saying that there is a magical regulatory regime that can just be placed atop the crypto edifice. I don't think so, but the developments on the ground are always going to outpace the law, and I think that trend is particularly notable in crypto disputes. And then where disputes involve highly technical issues that are at the cutting edge of technology and the cutting edge of law, it's important that you make sure, the parties need to be sure that their decider, whether they're in court and it's a judge or in arbitration, they need to know that the decider understands what they're talking about, the expertise. And then finally, in many of the hacking and the porting, unauthorized porting cases, it's sad, but you basically have very little ability to track the actual thief and to recover your losses from the person that stole. So or the group that stole, whatever it was. So you're necessarily going to be looking at other people or entities like service providers, like exchanges, to try to impose a kind of secondary liability. And it's difficult. So it's not necessarily impossible, but it's difficult. So those are, I think, some of the important distinctions.
And then one thing I guess I also wanted to touch on, a lot of traditional financial disputes, FINRA or otherwise, I imagine are maybe an individual investor against like a brokerage house or a bank. But in the crypto world, we're starting to see more partnerships formed, if you will, to both purchase cryptocurrency as well as hold it. So you're going to have individual disputes within partners in the partnership, as well as the possibility of theft. One member of the partnership takes the crypto out somehow and converts it. Are you seeing some of those types of cases?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think there's going to be sort of parallel cases in the crypto space in arbitration. One track, if you will, is going to be basically following in the footsteps of traditional financial disputes. So all of the kinds of disputes that you have ever seen in traditional finance, you're almost certainly going to see in crypto. But then the parallel track is it's a new development. It's an unsettled legal landscape, and so you're going to see things that are new types of disputes where it may not be that helpful to look to the traditional financial disputes for precedent or for guidance.
So I guess it leads into the next question. Is cryptocurrency a true currency or more of a speculative investment vehicle? And I think that's definitely a matter up for debate. You're going to get a lot of different answers to that question.
Sure. With an either or question like that, I think I'd like to say my answer is yes. But let me explain. A rudimentary definition of currency is a unit of exchange, which implies some level of acceptance and use. And empirically, we see that various kinds of cryptocurrency are being used to buy, sell, and exchange things of value every day. That's a fact. So cryptocurrency, broadly defined, is real currency in that sense. But I don't know how informative it is to stop the analysis or the discussion there. The other part of the question is whether it's a speculative investment vehicle. And again, I want to emphasize, as you noted at the outset, we're not giving
financial advice
or investment, right, or financial advice here. That said, is it a speculative investment vehicle? Well, it's certainly volatile. If you look at the Bitcoin exchange traded fund as a proxy, the value of Bitcoin dropped from over $64,000 just over a year ago to less than $17,000 now, which is around a 75% decline in value. On the other hand, it also went from a value of about $3,200 in December 2018 to that $64,000 mark 3 years later. So people invest in and bet on or against currencies every day, including some of the most sophisticated investors on earth, hedge funds, mutual funds, traders, the dollar, the ruble, and yes, the Bitcoin. Whether it's speculative is to some degree in the eye of the beholder. Clearly, it's much, much more volatile than fiat currencies used by stable governments. And clearly, there is no tangible good or service underlying the market value of the currency like there would be for stock in a corporation that's a going concern. But that doesn't mean that investing in all cryptocurrencies is just a pure crapshoot. I think we're in the very early stages of cryptocurrency. My crystal ball is always cloudy, but I see a lot of volatility continuing in the future, possibly a narrowing of the crypto marketplace as competition and efficiency become more deeply rooted. But I don't see a wholesale disappearance of the concept. I really don't see any way that happens, to be honest. I think it's here to stay.
And along those lines, do you think that more traditional financial services corporations will enter the cryptocurrency exchange marketplace? And do you think if that happens, I don't want to you say legitimacy, but do you think possibly the crypto markets might be stabilized more and not have the wild swings in prices and things like that we kind of see now?
Well, I think the volatility is going to continue. I think we've already seen the early stages of institutional investors looking to the cryptocurrency sphere and putting real money, billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars collectively into that sphere. So that's already happened. And yet the space has shown that it's certainly not immune to market fluctuation and volatility. So whether the market is going to stabilize, I think cryptocurrency broadly defined, I don't know that we'll really see the end of tremendous volatility anytime in the near future, particularly because there are so many cryptocurrencies that have varying degrees of use and prevalence. But it's an open question. That's one of the things that makes it interesting.
Yeah, I mentioned because I saw the other day Fidelity, for example, was considering, or I think they're in the process of creating a cryptocurrency wallet system for Bitcoin and for Ethereum, I believe. And it's important to note that people think of cryptocurrency as just Bitcoin, but there are so many different coins out there. I mean, I honestly can't keep track of them all. But Bitcoin and I think Ethereum, which I think are the two that they're going to allow to be held in their wallet, tend to be the two major ones. And that's something that people are really talking about. Will the smaller coins, the more volatile coins, kind of disappear into the background, and really it'll be a Bitcoin or a Bitcoin and Ethereum kind of based system going forward, or will it continue to be the Wild West? Question for you though, if more traditional financial services corporations do get involved in the cryptocurrency world, then potentially some disputes might fall under FINRA or SEC guidance and things like that, just based on the nature of the institution, correct?
Absolutely. And so, for example, if somebody does end up having a dispute over their cryptocurrency holdings with, let's say, a Fidelity, then there's certainly a strong possibility that that would be headed to arbitration overseen by FINRA.
Okay, very good. We'll briefly, I guess, discuss what happened at FTX and do other cryptocurrency exchanges face similar risks. Obviously, anything you say, we're not going to accuse anybody of any wrongdoing or make any legal summations here. But just based on what you know from what you've gleaned from the media and kind of the current situation, what's your understanding of what happened?
Yeah, FTX, for the listeners that want an explanation sort of from the ground up, FTX was one of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchanges. Its customers could trade their crypto for traditional money, like dollars, or for other forms of crypto or digital currency. At a very basic level, what the news reports are saying is that FTX was faced with a liquidity crunch where their like a bank run, where during the Great Depression, people were lining up outside banks to pull their savings to get the hard cash rather than relying on a ledger at a bank that might fail. FTX customers wanted to collectively withdraw huge amounts of their holdings. FTX couldn't pay, and that, among other things, was part of a spiral that drove them toward bankruptcy, according to news reports. There's also an important component to the story having to do with Alameda Research, which was an investing firm that was owned by FTX's owner. So in some ways could be seen as an affiliate of FTX, where Alameda's balance sheet revealed that a big portion of its holdings were a digital currency or token that was created by FTX and didn't necessarily have any either intrinsic or even really market value outside of FTX. And the market for crypto got pummeled in recent months. I think part of that has to do with other economic factors, and part of it, no doubt, had to do with the size of the FTX fall. But in my view, I don't believe what happened speaks to a fundamental problem or an intrinsic deficiency in cryptocurrency as a concept. It's no different from, I think anyway, it's no different from a bank that would face similar or parallel allegations regarding its dealings and the securities that it was holding to back its account holders' monies. And if a bank collapses, generally, we don't say that it speaks to a fundamental problem in either capitalism or financial markets as a whole, although perhaps we might, depending on how broad it is. But to me, this is a case of what FTX was doing, how FTX was handling its business affairs. Of course, it'll get sorted out in the bankruptcy and related forums. But to me, again, it doesn't bespeak a tremendous conceptual deficiency or problem with cryptocurrency as a whole.
And I guess it's important to mention for our arbitrators out there or folks interested in arbitration that bankruptcy acts as a stay to arbitration proceedings. So essentially, if somebody was considering filing an arbitration against FTX or something like that because they had some contract with them, it would be stayed pending the bankruptcy proceedings, correct?
Yeah, typically that would be correct with respect to a pre-existing arbitration. Would likely be stayed by the bankruptcy, and you could always ask the judge to let you proceed. Although I don't know what the likelihood of that would be given the size and the scope of the bankruptcy now. But yeah, it would also act typically as a stay against commencing new cases.
Do you feel what happened at FTX will open the door for more traditional financial services companies to get into the market and to kind of differentiate themselves and say, hey, maybe we consider ourselves maybe a safer place to hold your crypto, whatnot?
Yeah, I think that part of what had caused the boom in this area is the vitality and the innovation in the space, where new products, new items, literally things that had never before existed, were being created. So non-fungible tokens being one example of that, as a sort of offshoot of crypto. I think that there's just so much innovation and so much novelty and intellectual capital being invested in this space, that there is definitely room for somebody to come in and promote themselves as the safe place to store and invest your cryptocurrency. And I'm sure that a more catchy version of that slogan probably already exists. But I think that just like any market, whoever's in the vanguard, whoever is filling niches and gaps in the marketplace, they're going to have an opportunity to be a leader. And that's where the capital is going to flow.
Now, you mentioned that obviously there's not a lot of court precedent cases involving crypto, and it's a rapidly evolving technology. And it's obviously rapidly evolving for attorneys that want to learn more about crypto and potential cases they might have. How did you learn about cryptocurrency and how it works? And for neutrals that are interested in arbitrating or mediating cryptocurrency disputes, what resources would you recommend to them? How can someone learn more about this?
The way that I got involved was just hearing generally in the news, in the culture, that this thing called cryptocurrency and Bitcoin was on the rise. I wanted to learn more about it. I started reading magazine articles. I started looking up conferences, academic and professional conferences on the subject. I remember going to, about 6 years ago, to one at Cornell Tech, which is here in Manhattan. It was like a global cryptocurrency conference, and trying to convince some friends to take a day or two off of work to go with me. And people said, I've heard of that stuff. I don't know, it seems pretty shady or dubious. But those conferences, they existed, back then, and now they're more numerous than ever. So I, go to the conferences. I also did, thinking that this was going to be a hot area and being an area of interest to me personally. I got a certificate. I took a class through the Global Cyber Institute and UCLA that on cyber issues and matters relating to this area generally, and then started attending CLEs and lectures on the topic myself. Ultimately became a speaker at some of the programs. I've now been a moderator and a panelist on a number of speaking engagements and lectures on crypto and arbitration, blockchain and arbitration, and eventually now I'm getting quite a number of cases from AAA that relate to cryptocurrency disputes, blockchain disputes, and the like. So it's nice for me because I had sort of a logical sequence of events with a vision of where I wanted to take it that is more or less worked out or is working out. But for people that would like to get into the space, I would say, figure out a plan. It's not enough to be interested in something and say, hey, can I get where my case is, right? That's not going to work. You need to make yourself into an expert or as close to an expert as is possible. And whether that is taking an online class or an in-person class, getting some kind of credential or accreditation in the field, It could be, going to a series of lectures and speeches, reading everything you can get your hands on, joining bar committees that either touch on or focus on these areas. It's a process. So people looking for instant gratification to market themselves or hold themselves out as some kind of expert, but who don't have the credential, it's unlikely to happen. So I would say, first and foremost, figure out a plan that's actually feasible and that makes sense, and then execute.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, as somebody who manages some of the larger crypto cases that we have here at AAA, expertise matters. And I can tell you, I've really scratched my head at some situations in the past where, say, it's a situation involving party-appointed arbitrators, where each of the respective parties chooses an arbitrator for a crypto case that's never done a crypto case and knows nothing about crypto, and they simply chose this individual because maybe they've used them on past cases involving different issues, or and they think they can learn the crypto on the fly, and it's not necessarily such an easy hill to climb if you don't have really any experience or knowledge in the subject matter area.
Yeah, it reminds me very quickly. I think my first crypto arbitration, one of the counsel was explaining a concept and then referred to something called gas. And I said, "What's that?" I thought maybe she misspoke, but she explained to me a concept that I'm now, well familiar with, which is, it's essentially, that's the slang, if you will, or the jargon for transactional costs in an exchange of cryptocurrency. But after that, I was embarrassed, although I don't know how many arbitrators at that point, that was some years ago, would have been familiar with that phrase, but I just determined that's never going to happen again. So
Right.
I have to be a real expert, not halfway there or something like that. So yes, expertise, I think, is paramount.
And considering a lot of arbitrators are, retired attorneys and retired judges that kind of are in the later years of their legal careers, I don't want to sound ageist or anything like that. I think you can learn about crypto at any age if you're willing to put in the work to do the research and to make yourself an expert. And the advice you gave, is the resources you provided, I think would be very valuable to arbitrators looking to get into cryptocurrency disputes. All right, well, that's our time here. Is there anything else you'd like to add regarding cryptocurrency before we finish?
No, again, thanks so much for having me. And just to recap, I think, to me, it's a fascinating area. It's certainly growing, perhaps growing explosively in terms of legal disputes. And I just think that so much intellectual capital is being invested and so much intellectual force is being applied in this area that it's certainly a marketplace that is here to stay, notwithstanding some serious volatility. So I think that it's not going away, and it certainly would behoove people who are interested to start studying now if they want to enter into the space in one form or another.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Dani, and I hope our listeners are going to be researching crypto and learning more about it, and just learning everything that they can about how they can train themselves to handle these very unique type of technology disputes, if you will. Technology and finance, I guess it's kind of on the edge of both, right?
Sure, and privacy and telecommunications. It's really it's a hodgepodge, and that just means there's a lot of room for creative lawyering, which is also something that appeals to me. So it's a fascinating area to be in.
Thanks so much, Dani.
Thank you.